Good evening. It's 5:02 on Thursday, February 26, 2026, and this is the Board of Directors meeting for the Bristol County Water Authority. Call the meeting to order. First thing I want to do that's not on the agenda is welcome our newest addition to the board, Frank Alfano from Warren. Welcome, Frank.
Thank you very much.
Frank had been on the board a number of years ago, but you're going to find this much more fun board than it's ever been.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, it's more comfortable, I can tell you.
Well, welcome. We'll enjoy your input from you.
Thank you.
Second item on the agenda is public input. And as is normally the case, I don't see any members of the public here. We'll move on to a presentation by the Beta Group on the Pawtucket Pipeline Project. Steve, do you want to say anything?
I just want to introduce Nick Carvello, who was here back in August. Give a presentation on where we were with the Phase 2 design. And it's back this evening, provide an update. Though he has, since August, been providing the board with monthly status updates on the project, aspects of the project. And we also had provided an updated schedule last month. So I don't know if Nick, just going to give an overview as to where we're at.
Sure. Just
Let me just add
Sure.
that there's a February 17th report in the board's package attached to Steve Kutu's executive director report.
Okay, and really, I think my discussion and my presentation will really focus upon the status of that report. When we were here back in August, we kind of laid out where we were and some obstacles and elements that we were looking to overcome. We received a letter from the board and from Mr. Kutu back in September approving our amendment with conditions relative to having the all elements of the pipeline projects, save for the blending and control station work, which has kind of been pushed out a bit based on some design changes, completed by or advanced to the 90% design stage and submitted for relevant permitting agencies by December 31st. We had been working to meet that deadline, and as you all know now, we did not meet that deadline relative to completing all of those elements. Just to remind everybody what those elements are, we have effectively what we consider a roadway project component of the project, which is the majority of the pipeline. It's about 25,000 feet between the Kent Heights tank and the connection in the city of Pawtucket. We're at the Pawtucket city line. And then 4 critical crossings, 2 trenchless crossings, one underneath the railroad and one underneath Interstate 195. And then 2 utility bridge crossings, one over another railroad owned by the same company. We can explain that a little bit later. And over the 10-mile river on Pawtucket Avenue. What we did complete is we did complete the 90% plans for the roadway design, and those were submitted to DOT for a utility permit application. That is probably the biggest of the applications. We also have the freshwater wetlands permit application was submitted to RIDEM at the same time. That was back in early December. The utility bridge plans for the 10-mile river crossing and the Providence and Worcester Railroad crossing were also included in that write-out package. Since the bridges are located within the state right-of-way, they fall under the same permit application. So the outstanding project elements that were not completed at that time and are still ongoing are the 2 trenchless crossings, the one at the railroad and the one at Interstate 195, and then an occupancy license for the railroad for the utility bridge crossing at Providence and Worcester Railroad. You folks are all interested in the reasons for those delays, and so that's kind of why I'm here to speak to those today. The biggest source was really focusing on getting those applications into DEM and to DOT on the larger components of the project. We had gotten some conflicting information from the railroad relative to the necessity of one of those licenses. It's kind of delayed things a little bit. The engineering team with the railroad has been really good and pretty responsive in terms of getting back to us. It's really actually kind of helped things move along. The real estate team is a little more challenging to get in touch with and to have them respond back. So that's been a little source of delay there. We've since gotten confirmation that the occupancy license over the railroad at the utility bridge is required, so we have pulled together that application. We've also had some coordination with our geotechnical engineer relative to the utility crossing, trenchless crossings. We've gotten their technical specs received in later in December. There were some things upon our review that we weren't satisfied with, and we had sent back then for review. We've been trying to integrate our plans to make sure that their technical specifications match our design plans prior to submission. And that's kind of the process that we're in right now. The GEI is our geotechnical sub-consultant. Throughout this project, they've been very, very good to work with, and they've been very, very responsive. So I'm hopeful that this is going to be moved along in a quick fashion. I was hoping to have the application for the trenchless crossing of the railroad submitted prior to this meeting. I just got an email earlier saying that it's ready for review once again. So within the next week, that should be submitted. So we'll get in touch with the director, have him sign off on the application, and get that submitted. We are continuing to coordinate with our geotech sub to finalize things associated with the I-195 crossing. That application has been pretty much pulled together and are just waiting for those final touch-ups. Targets on those, you folks have seen the schedule that we had submitted last time, which basically had those elements submitted by middle of February. So we're still a couple weeks behind on that, but those were the 3 outstanding elements that we needed to submit. As far as other project activity that's happened since this last time, Mr. Kutu and I have had discussions relative to the blending and control station and some siting. This was back in January. We spoke about the siting of the station. The city had some additional requirements relative to restricting access to the site and facility. So we had gone back to GHD, and it's another G sub-consultant there, who's our blending and control station sub-consultant, to rework those options. We've since received those back in and are waiting to just get confirmation to move that forward. And I'm trying to think if there are any other things. We also, relative to the 90% design plans that were submitted to DOT, both Mr. Kutu and his team have reviewed them. The City of East Providence has reviewed them, and they have some comments. We were looking to do a design workshop this month to kind of parse out a lot of those questions and comments. One time I had to cancel it and postpone it, and the snowstorm just postponed the last one that we were scheduled to do on Tuesday. So we're looking to get up. Hopefully the city can make some time in the next week or two, and we can go over those comments. There are some things that are a little confusing to us, at least from the city's comments, that we want to make sure that we address and get on the same page. With that, I think that's a status of where we are and where we expect to be within the next 3 weeks, more or less. Just open it up to any questions that you folks may have.
I have a question, but out of curiosity. The I-195 crossing, you talked about microtunneling. Can you define that?
Microtunneling? Sure. So microtunneling is a trenchless technology where a hole is bored from a shaft that's excavated within the earth to effectively push a pipe without excavating from the surface. So it's a most of the pipeline that you'll see installed in this project is conventional trenching. Cut a slice of earth in the roadway to create, shore the excavation, install a pipeline, and then backfill and repave. In these situations, basically, we're trying to bore a tunnel through the earth from point A to point B in two shafts. One of those shafts is located for the 195 crossing. One of those shafts is located right near the DOT maintenance facility on Warren Avenue. And the other, it's right in the off-ramp there area off of 195. And then the other shaft is located within a private parking lot that I know the authority has been working to secure access and an easement on.
On the north side of 195 in that area, I think, it appeared to be somewhat of a wetlands. I'm just curious, having the geotechnical work done, did they find any particular conditions that were going to cause any issues in going under that 195 and then good towards that wetlands?
So most of the wetlands associated with that complex are actually a little further to the east. Okay, is the majority of the wetland complex. There is a stream and a wetland that crosses underneath it. Our depth in that location is actually pretty deep. I think we're about 35 to 40 feet beneath the highway in that location. And the reason for that is because of the presence of bedrock. It's pretty high bedrock profile within the highway. Okay. What we want to do from tunneling from the, I guess would be the south side, the Warren Avenue side, to the north side, we want to make sure we're in a full face of bedrock. We don't want to have a pipe that's skipping along bedrock, and we don't want to start outside of bedrock and then enter into bedrock for fear of skipping pipe along line and grade. So the proposal is to excavate so that we have a full face of rock to work within. Coming out of rock is okay, and we wouldn't exit rock until we got to right around that wetland complex, but we'll be I think it's probably about 15 feet beneath those wetlands. So there were no concerns relative to those existing geotechnical conditions. One of the things that the contractor is going to have to be aware of is potential for inadvertent returns, which are basically drilling slurry that may frack out to the surface, and so they'll have to have monitor pressures as they get out of bedrock, so that they can make sure that they're not returning fluids to the surface.
Now, is the DOT utility permit application specific to the crossing under 195?
So in our early discussions with DOT, we had made the determination that it made sense to submit two permits. One permit for the majority of the work, all the work within the state roads. Majority of this project takes place within Pawtucket Avenue, but Waterman Avenue and Warren Avenue, all the state roads would be considered, lumped under one permit. And then the permit associated with the crossing would be a secondary utility permit, primarily because DOT needs to submit that to the Federal Highway Association. So Federal Highway will actually weigh in on that crossing itself. So in an effort to keep things separate and clean, I guess, they asked us to submit two separate permits. So we agreed to submit two separate permits.
Now, generally speaking, if you could ever talk about something generally like this, doing microtunneling, is that a fancier name? I think they used to call it pipe jacking. But anyway, doing microtunneling under a highway is got to be fairly routine matter. Routine from the viewpoint it's done a lot.
Fair.
And certainly you have to pay attention to the specifics of where you are. It's not, you can't just push a pipe through there. So from the viewpoint that it's done a lot, it shouldn't be a major issue to get a permit to do this, would you think?
I wouldn't expect that it would be a complicated permitting process.
Yeah.
I don't know that complicated permitting process and lengthy permitting process are coincident. So
one of the things that anecdotally and discussions that go around is the thinking and the theme was well, they're never gonna give us a permit to, that could possibly disrupt traffic, especially when they're trying to build a new bridge. Do you see those two being connected?
I don't, just because that the method being employed here does not impact traffic. You know, our locations are outside the traveled way completely, so there should not be an issue. We were, we were talking a little bit about it today in the office about, one of the things that can happen when you do microtunnel is sometimes you can hit an obstruction or you can get stuck. Getting stuck here is a non-starter. Normally the way that you would go to retrieve your machine is to excavate and retrieve your machine. Was just recently working on a project where that was necessary. It wasn't under 195, so it wasn't as big a deal. It was not complicated.
Right.
Not complicated. This would be a significant complication. But to answer your question, no, relative to tying it within the Washington Bridge and that situation, I don't think would have any impact on the permitting process.
Right.
Okay. One of the things that may impact based on the Washington Bridge is the work within Pawtucket Avenue. Pawtucket Avenue, I see it as Pawtucket Avenue as being a major thoroughfare, and a lot of people are using that in lieu of the Washington Bridge. I know Pawtucket Avenue has probably seen significant uptake in traffic over the course of the past 18 months.
Now, is that a state road?
It is. So DOT would weigh in on that. I know the city has already provided a letter in support of our application for extended working hours, which is great. Normally when you're working within a state roadway, you're limited to a very finite time frame, working from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., which would make this project significantly lengthier construction.
Bob?
I got your last schedule here, I think it's for January.
The January schedule?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think right now, everything, if I'm correct, everything is at 90% with the exception of the blending and control station.
Everything, yes, and finalizing some of those trenchless crossings. So those permits haven't been submitted yet.
Well, to the permitting thing, we have the one for 195. When is that going to be submitted?
The 195, we're doing some final coordination with the geotech folks, hoping within the next 2 weeks to finalize that and get it submitted.
So if I say March 15th,
I think I had it by the 13th of March, yeah.
I can see from here. No. The one for the railroad crossing from Providence, when is that going to be submitted?
So they've already seen part of that. So they've already reviewed the structural components of that, and I think we talked about that previously. This is for the occupancy license associated with it.
But what's going to get submitted yet is not yet done.
It's not yet done. It will be. I'm targeting that by the end of next week because we're very close.
Okay. And how about the GW one?
The GW one is even closer than that. I would.
Everything by the middle of March is going to be submitted with the exception of the Rhode Island DOH.
Yes.
Which is out here to August.
The driving factor on the DOH submittal is basically they need to see the entire package for plans and specifications. Right. So while all our plans for everything else is complete, the blending and control station is governing when that gets submitted because it's one project.
And blending control is going to be done. No, that's just the design factor. That's August also. That the 90% on
the 90% on the blending control station.
Yeah.
Some of that's gone back and forth, so that unfortunately I don't have a much better handle on the blending control station as I do on the other stuff.
So that blending and control station will delay everything else until that's completed, so we can go to the final design.
We'll delay the submission to the RIDO, to Department of Health for their plan and spec approval, yes. And RIDO is going to weigh in very heavily on the blending and control station because of the water quality.
So the next line down is final design, which right now says it's the middle of August, is going to be when?
Final design effectively for all other elements would be upon receipt of comments from DOT, DEM, and those elements. So that's why if you look at the permitting elements under task 6 there, that have identified that kind of light blue shaded elements. That's what we're expecting to take for review time.
So you're expecting by July 1st, so let's say, it's a rough assumption?
I would say I'm hoping at this point.
Okay. What, in my mind, what is your final submission to BCWA?
For bidding an award for review.
What,
sorry.
when you're done?
When we're done,
What am I gonna get in the door? A package of specs and
Under your present contract, what is the final delivery?
what are you delivering?
To Bristol County Water Authority?
would be plans and specifications for bidding.
Okay.
So they would take that, once they accept it, and...
And then you
get
could advertise
these-
it for bid.
These provinces would have to have a submission of that also.
Yes.
Have to get together. So that, you're looking at that for now for, I sort of don't believe middle of August right now.
No. That, like I said, again, that would be a package that would be able to be submitted to the Department of Health and then their permit. They will come back with comments, and then we will revise our plans and specs to support that in
So
preparation
we
for
have to
advertising.
wait for DOH to give us a permit in order to get the final design package together?
Yes. Well, they need to review the application that goes into them, which we were targeting August, if we can get the blending control station to that point.
So you're talking 2027 at least?
Yeah.
That's for the design effort, the package.
Well, that's getting the certificate of approval from DOH. And we can't go out to bid until we get a certificate of approval.
Right, so you can't,
So-
Yeah.
But
As far as
when
design-
when you submit as part of the permit application, if the world were perfect, is the plans and specifications to DOH.
Correct.
And if the world were perfect, and DOH would say, oh yeah, these are perfect, we'll send them, they're all ready, they send them back to BCWA, and we say, okay, let's go to bid.
Yes.
so we're, okay.
Well, the reality is,
No, I've worked
They're gonna make
I've
us
worked
submit
with DOH before.
yeah, the reality, any
That's what I'm
regulatory
looking at,
agency,
define-
you're gonna submit the plans and specs to them, they're gonna review them, and you hope they're not gonna have anything substantive, but there may be things, something was left out,
Mhm.
a T wasn't crossed, an I wasn't dotted, whatever it is, and they're gonna send back your comments and so forth, you then have to address it, and then make a resubmittal to make sure that they have, everything's in there, then once that is okay, you're ready to go, we get a notice that says what was submitted is fine and dandy.
You would have preliminary approval from DOH to bid. You had mentioned that the design effort would take through into 2027. I guess that's my sticking point. Is like, we're not going to be designing up into 2027. We're going to be submitting and we're going to be waiting. A lot of it, actually.
The
Go ahead.
preliminary design package prior to DOH approval will be here.
Yes.
Yeah, well, we said again, we've submitted 90% plans for the majority of the project.
Yeah.
I know that Mr. Kutu and his
And
team.
when it's submitted to DOH, we've already gotten a review by the city of East Providence and the BCWA.
Correct.
And so you have, okay. Any other comments, questions?
And I think it's been brought up before, can it be done in two parts with DOH? You've got all of this, and then you got the one control station.
Can it? Yes. Yes, it can.
Would that help?
I don't know. The reason I say that is because you need both components in order to
Right.
be able to move water.
Right.
You know, one of the things that could be done is if you wanted to accelerate the pipeline components of it while the blending control station was in design, it would be two separate submittals to DOH, two separate applications, which may potentially allow you to go out to advertise a pipeline portion of it ahead of time. I know that we've kind of talked about that previously. Doesn't make sense. There is risk.
I'm just thinking, is there any advantage with the DOH to have them look at this piece without the whole piece, which is a separate function in my mind? Would they say, okay, I've got this is okay, and we're still waiting for the other piece?
If we were going to advertise it as one contract, no.
Okay, all right.
Which raises the question I was going to ask is, looking at this here, you mentioned the I-195 crossing, the 10-mile river crossing, Providence Worcester crossing, the Genesee and Wyoming crossing, and the blending and control station. And that's one, two, and the roadway design. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 6 different components of this project. So this is, we're going into fantasy here now. If and when we put this out to bid, do you think it would be of any advantage for us to put out 6 construction contracts, or 4 construction contracts, or 2, something more than one? Instead of going out for one big project, each one of these things can't be functional by themselves.
Correct.
But it might, the thought is that maybe we would accelerate the construction project if we started the projects in small bites, if you will, maybe simultaneously, maybe not. And any thinking along those lines?
So, in my experience, usually whenever we have utility contracts that have a transfer component to it, such as microtunneling, microtunnelers make poor general contractors in terms of organization and management. They make great subcontractors. So I would tend to lump utility work, like the roadway components and the trenches components, together to allow the general contractor to select a subcontractor that he can work with. The bridges, I think, effectively could be completed potentially separately, but you still run into a situation where you have a pipeline that is defunct, right? It can't be used.
There's a pipeline to nowhere until the other pieces are there.
Correct. And so it can be tested.
Right.
I don't know that there's any advantage to disinfecting it. The disinfection of this pipeline is actually probably going to be one of the more challenging components to this project. So if I were to consider that, I think you may want to consider even doing a separate, you may even do a separate project just relative to disinfection. Because I don't think you could hold one contractor to to any one component to disinfect it, and because they won't be active. They won't be active, and they actually can't even be active until the station is completed.
Right.
So, in the land of, when we started talking
Yeah.
theoretically, that's
And if we were going to let 6 contracts out or 2 contracts, we have to realize that when we make a commitment to 1 or 6, we're making a commitment to all of them.
Correct.
Otherwise, we have a monument to nothing.
yes.
And I think a classic example of that was, I think it was the Interstate 84 Cloverleaf Exchange in West Hartford, that was in Farmington. That was built before any of the other highways were put in place, and it sat there for about 20, 30, 40 years before the highways came along to connect to it, and they still haven't connected everything to it. But anyway, okay. Yeah, some of them make sense functionally to lump together and so forth. So that's
What we haven't really discussed relative to that, though, would be the funding components associated with it. And then if it were to be broken up, because presumably we're looking at drinking water SRF, at least at this point. I don't know if wind is coming into play or whatnot, but in order to get your drinking water SRF money, you need your RIDO permit. And we're asking RIDO to do 6 permits instead of
Right.
1 permit. You may just be death by 1,000 paper cuts.
I don't see DOH reviewing this in pieces.
Are both of the blending and control stations identical?
So there was a design change previously that basically took the blending and control station that Bristol County was going to do and then the city of East Providence was going to do and made it into one facility. So now there's one blending and control station, independently operated under one building.
I'm confused.
Okay.
We took the one from by the Knights of Columbus,
Mm-hmm.
and we put it inside the building where the tower is at Kent Heights.
It's a separate building.
Okay, it's in a building.
Yes,
It's the same one being used by East Providence,
the same building, yes.
but there are two stations.
It's
Yes,
effectively two independent stations within one building.
it's like a condo unit,
But are both of the stations identical?
pretty much, yes.
Well, no. Okay.
Oh, no,
So
so,
we're gonna go to the DOH and we're gonna say, I got two different control stations that are gonna mix different chemicals.
No, they're essentially the same.
the only difference right now is that the city of East Providence wanted to add a chlorination component to their station at this point. So while they're gonna blend the water together. So basically, one feed comes into the station, splits off into two separate feeds, one going to the Bristol County side, one going to the city side. Independently, they will blend or transform that water. And then, so basically, once it comes into the Bristol County side of the station, it's your water. You're going to transform it into Providence water and send it down to your pipeline.
And one could function without the other one function.
Correct.
So, but then, I guess my question goes down the line, if I go to DOH with two blending and control stations instead of one, that says, I just had two identical ones, I got one that's a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
Is that where I'm at?
Yeah, I mean, quite honestly, it's one of those complications that we haven't really sorted through with DOH.
It's one station, independently operated, each section. How DOH views that, we don't know yet.
I think the intent right now is to submit one application.
We're gonna submit one application, yeah.
And we're gonna have to sort through the logistics of ownership and operation in that process.
Which I'm not sure I understand why, but anyway, that's another discussion.
That's been, since we moved it from where the Knights of Columbus is, that's been there. But it's a question of, are they the same, am I buying two Chevys? Or am I buying a Ford and a Chevy? I don't know, that's my,
It's really no different, except the building is just one building, instead of having two separate buildings in different locations. You just form them together.
They're not blended.
understand that, but I'm questioning the blending, two different blending stations.
But they would always be blended differently, how they operate is gonna be differently, because it's gonna all be dependent upon the volume of water that each agency takes from Pawtucket.
Okay.
But the blending process is effectively the same.
Right.
Okay.
But this is where the decision is made operationally. If East Providence were having a problem with their water system and had a problem getting water from Providence for whatever reason, they could get it from Pawtucket and it would be at this station that decision would be made. That we're going to operate today, we're going to take water from Pawtucket, and we're going to treat it, and we're going to add our chlorine or whatever they want to do, and it's not going to get distributed to our customers. Bristol County, you don't need it because you're getting water from another pipeline in the southern part of East Providence from Providence, and that's working well for you today. And then 2 months later, the reverse happens.
We'll always be taking water from both sources.
Right, but
We won't be, unless there's a catastrophic break from either one of them.
right.
But each
But
agency will always be
the
taking water.
distribution of the water to the two different areas takes place in that facility.
Correct.
Okay, any other questions, thoughts, comments? Do you need your parking validated?
I'm glad to see that the lot was plowed.
Okay, well, no other questions? Oh,
No, I want to say thank you.
Oh, no.
That's just-
Thank you for
Anytime,
coming
you
in and taking us through
Yes, this-
the schedule.
So the schedule will come out next month, and we'll see where we're at again, and
Yeah.
continue that, please.
Sure, if you folks would like to have me back
I
to
would.
talk about it.
Come on in anytime. Mike said he'd buy coffee.
Anytime.
One thing that you make a statement in very last statement, second last statement maybe, that maybe we can answer for you now, and that's Joe over here. It says, "We are unaware of the current easement status." With anything you can provide in terms of an update that might be of value to them? I don't know.
Work it out.
There you go. Okay.
Mr. Mariscal, the reason why that language is in there is because that's the way, the
Yeah.
format in which you requested this memo to be.
No, I understand that, but I
Okay.
just wanted, if he has some big news today or something.
Big news.
All right.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for coming in.
Thanks for having me, appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
You guys, Steve, thank you.
Drive carefully up there, then.
We'll try. Take care. Have a good night. Thank you as well.
The next item on the agenda is approval of minutes from the public hearing and the board meeting.
Motion to approve
Which one?
the public hearing.
Okay,
Second.
second. I have a motion, second. Do I have any discussions about the public hearing and minutes? Yes, I have one. There's a typo on the first page.
I know, I saw, I actually saw that. I can correct it.
Is it? It's, the title is incorrect, but anyway. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
I'll correct it. I will correct it. We can go over it.
Okay, any opposed? None, it's unanimous.
Will you be, you mentioned you'd be abstaining.
I'll abstain because I wasn't here.
Okay, very good.
Sounds like he's honest.
I mean, you can always watch it on YouTube, right?
Could.
He doesn't need to be punished.
Fair enough.
Okay, the second set of minutes for the board meeting from January 22nd.
Motion to approve those meetings from January 22nd.
Second. Motion has been made and seconded. Comments, questions, thoughts? No. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstention. Right. Okay. Now we move on to the executive director's report. Mr. Kutu.
Good evening. Any other questions on the Phase 2 design? Since Nick is out of the room. So we've been trying to hold this design workshop that you had mentioned with East Providence, Data, and us for some time. We had it scheduled last for Tuesday. Obviously, the storm kind of canceled that, so we're looking at maybe hopefully sometime next week, depending on the EP director's schedule. We've been a little busy. Moving on to the demo of the treatment plant and the plans for the new maintenance garage. Power Corporation has commenced work on the 30% design plans. We have a meeting actually with them tomorrow. They had the soil drilling rig, taking borings and engineering surveyors out there week of the 16th. So that's moving along. And Power's also picked up, again, the plans for finalizing the specs for the demo of the treatment plant, of the abandoned treatment plant. And we're going to get a meeting with them on that next week. With respect to the dam removal, shed, pipeline, and other BCWA properties, As previously reported, we offered private well testing to 12 property owners that previously participated and had their wells tested. The reason we're doing this was a condition of the CRC approval. So we had 6 out of those 12 participated, and we will send notices out to the 6 that did not participate to see if they want to have an opportunity again. Probably going to wait until the month, wait till the weather breaks a little bit. Probably looking at doing it in April now rather than March. The Shad pipeline, they're Save the Bay and Power Corp wetland scientists are working on finalizing plans and permit documents for that work. And their target date to get permit submissions in is April or May this year. I've received some quotes. So there are appraiser firms on the state NPA. So I did get quotes recently from 3 different companies, and I'm looking at those now. I'm making some phone calls, have some questions on some of their numbers. But so I essentially asked for appraisals for the 3 properties that we have in Swansea, including the larger piece of property that has the dam on it. So I figured I'd add the other 2 as well. And then once those reports come in, I'm thinking that meeting with a properties committee to review those reports and determine the next steps. That works. Lead service line replacement program, not too much has happened. I know we're trying to, the company that we were working with, that's a DOH contractor, the Rural Water Association. We do meet with them. We have virtual meetings with them once a week. But just given the situation with all the snow, they haven't really started going out and notifying customers to line up scheduled appointments for this next group of 400 customers. These are the folks that we had presumed being non-lead, and we need to validate 20% of those. So, hopefully, once the weather breaks, they can start scheduling appointments and move on for that. About Avenue Tank, we sent an application to decommission the tank. Well, what does that mean? It essentially means it's physically cutting off the tank from the rest of the system is what DOH wants to see. So they've given the okay for that, and we plan to do that again once the weather breaks. Water purchases, surprisingly that we've had more water this past December and I think even the previous January and December. The highest it's been over the past 5 years. However, cumulatively over the year, we still remain 2% less than the prior 5-year average. In the patch graphs, you can kind of see that in the graphs. Capital improvement project summary budgets, all those projects all within shape with respect to remaining budget numbers. And I don't want to steal much. I know Mike can add a little more to his report, but it's been a busy season for water utility operators, and I just want to commend them for all the good work they've been doing out there. Since January 1, we've had, I think it's actually, since my report, we've had even 2 or 3 more since then, so we're over 30 main breaks. But we've gone out there when we learn about them, and they're repaired in a timely manner. In often difficult conditions. This time of year it's not easy to be out there working, so I think they've been doing a great job in responding to those breaks. We did get 1 news article out of it, water main break that was helping Barrington. But I think for the most part, I don't know, they go out there, somewhat minimal shutdowns, so it's not really impacting a lot of customers. I know in one case, Director Warren, you had reached out regarding a number of patches that we've seen on Metacom Avenue.
No, I haven't. great.
And that is the source of many breaks that we've had there. The breaks, it's a 12-inch cast iron main, and the breaks almost always typically occur at the bells. A number of years ago, Bristol County Water management staff, I found this, I guess, encapsulation clamp to put over the bells. So I guess in the past, they had to actually cut out a section, shut down large sections of businesses on Metacom Avenue. Today, they manage it, they keep the water running, and they put this encapsulation clamp over, over the bell, and they can repair it that way.
The reason I did it is, obviously I was more concerned about the fact that we had that 1,000 feet on Gooding Avenue. Did we have the same pipe in there? That's why I sent the email.
Yeah, it's not a situation where the main is deteriorating.
Yeah.
It's just the cast main, and it's just kind of shifting and where the bell connections are.
Yeah, that's good. I think
But since you reached out, we had 3 additional ones.
Yeah, plus go back for a couple. But the guys are doing a terrific job. I would ask the director or what, can from the board, and I'd ask the chairman, can we send some kind of thanks to the whole group over there that are, send them a pizza party or something like that would do it from the board that says, hey, they're doing a terrific job. I certainly have stood out in the cold before, but not to dig into water and play in the water. It's not, I can't see that being fun. So I just asked that.
Steve and I will get together and see
If you
what we
would,
come up with.
just to, thank the guys and do something for them.
It's a good idea.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to add to Bob, a couple of weeks ago, my wife and I went for pizza, and there we were right out in front of Pizza Hut, and it was a cold night, and they kept their spirits. I don't know if it was just because I was there watching. They're good, and I think they definitely deserve some kind of a sign of appreciation from you all.
It's a good idea. If you do that, I don't mind showing up, or any of us that could show up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not for the pizza, just recognize.
Well, okay. I'll bring my own.
What kind of pizza do you like?
While you're at it, while he's at it, say thank you to the girls in the office too, they do a fine job.
I saw Mike running the backhoe.
How do we typically learn about these breaks? A phone call, I guess.
Yeah, we get alerted. People will notice water running. Police will call. Somebody will notice something. We had one where they noticed water, a fountain, and shooting on the ground. So most often it's everyone expects it to be dry, and then it hasn't rained in a bit, and we see water running down the road. So we'll get alerted that way.
How many hydrants we lost past couple days? I heard a couple go.
Got cooked off.
I don't have a good accounting of it. Some of them might be gone and still buried. But the ones we get alerted to, we repair.
Are they getting hit by plows?
Snow plows.
They're too close to the road,
Yeah.
so they hit them.
Or is the pile too close to the ground?
Yeah, burning in Maine.
I found one in Murdoch.
That's the new Bluetooth hydrant. You can do whatever you want.
And then one in front of Market Street Park.
And then I guess last, continuing PCWA's long-standing tradition of providing judging services to the Mount Hope High School Science Fair. So this year, it happened to be Colin and I. We assisted as judges. We had other folks from, members of the community. There were actually members of the Coast Guard there as well. But it was a very well-run event. I have to say that some of the presentations were actually quite impressive this year. And so the winners of that local science fair, they will go on and compete in the state science fair, which is this March 15th. And as you know, we award cash prizes to the local winners of the state science fair. So we'll see what the results are from that event. that concludes.
Anything you want to bring up, Mike?
No, nothing much else to add. I kind of just limited what I presented to the quantity of rakes, and I provided some pictures of what it looks like out there. So try to convey that it has been a challenging winter. What makes this winter even more challenging is how warm the previous winters have been. So we're seeing conditions that we haven't seen in a while, from the temperatures all the way down to the amount of frost. With the snowpack that has persisted throughout the winter, even getting gravel. We're having all these breaks. We have to get rid of all that mud. We have to put fresh gravel back in, so the road is stable once we're done. So even getting things like that has been challenging. So all little things, equipment failures that stack up in these type of conditions. So you're right, the cold is bad. Digging in the mud is terrible because everything freezes instantly when it's that cold. Your clothes freeze, the mud freezes on you, it freezes in the machine, it freezes in the trucks. It's just the fresh gravel pile's frozen. So everything is challenging. So it requires much more manual effort to kind of work around the pipes and things like that when you're out there in those conditions. So,
Mike, these lines are below the frost line. What makes this affect them? They're below the frost line.
they are, but when that top 10 inches, 2 feet freezes, it can shift things down. So when it freezes, it expands also. Some of that goes into the heave. You'll get road heaves, sidewalks heave all the time. But some of that pressure will push it down. And then in the case where we see Medicom, you don't get a lot of frost because it's a main road, but where we're seeing the failures is the joint, and that's the point of maximum deflection, so where those forces have their greatest impact. That's why those quite often fail. It's also the thinnest part of the pipe usually, so they're more susceptible to failure. So.
When you get a report on these breaks, I don't know, maybe they fall into a lot of different categories, but is one of the categories you're not surprised that the break occurred because when you dig it up, you realize what's there and it's old and it's deteriorated. It's sort of like the one on Gooding where you were surprised by it, but once you investigate it further, it's probably not surprising.
Yeah, so I think we're more inclined to see the second example where we're digging up a pipe that's from the 1990s, this, maybe a bolt rotted or something, bad installation, something kind of moved and it released, and we're seeing some weepage. But we have had 2 examples, Gooding and Riverview and Barrington, where we dug up a seemingly new pipe at 30 years old compared to Medicom that's over 100 years old, and it's gone. So those are the really surprising ones. Otherwise, cast iron, our system is old. We have a lot of cast iron. Cast iron is subject to brittle failure. As it corrodes, it's even more susceptible to brittle failure. So we're not, we had 2 during the storm that we went out to make sure they weren't blowing out and that we could safely tend to them once plowing operations were done. So we weren't, in harm's way with plows and machines and limited visibility. But they were on a cast iron main, and we knew it was probably just a crack. One of them was a crack and one of them was a bell. So essentially, those are just 2 minor failures on cast iron mains. They're anticipated.
Thank you. Colin, anything you want to bring up?
Most noteworthy thing I got is we recently put the plans and specs together for this year's capital improvement project. It's going to be a cleaning and lining of sections of Child Street, Medicom, and Kingabuet, as well as some service renewals and general update valve, hydrant replacement, things like that. We have been coordinating with the state and the town of Warren to coordinate construction schedules, and we advertised the request for bids on the 17th. We had a non-mandatory pre-bid conference on the 19th, and the bids are due March 12th. No major updates for the previous two projects. Those are just still waiting for Boiling Fogarty's the permanent patch mill and overlay work, and Ducon is yet to send in their last invoice. And then, yeah, no major updates on anything else.
Yeah, quick comment, Mr. Director. I talked to the DPW director in Bristol, the mayor, and he really enjoys working with Kyle. He says he's very honest and up forward and helping him out a lot. So
Good to hear.
thank you very much, Kyle.
Thank you.
Especially if I go in his office, he doesn't like that.
You can have part of the pizza for the.
What about me? That isn't right.
Well,
I'm only kidding.
I went to him for a reference once, about 4 years ago. I'm going to tell you what he said.
I know what he said.
Oh, he called you right after?
Daniel, financial report.
Oh, my turn already, okay.
Did I miss something?
No. That one was just quick. If you look at January, we're almost done with the year. If you look at January versus January, revenue's a little bit higher than last January, 3.56%. There's some increased consumption. Joe is kind of pulling his hair out trying to figure out why, and he basically came up with the idea that maybe it's just the Patriot success, a lot more people partying, and it's tough that time of year, people come and go with the holidays and stuff like that, so there's really no rhyme or reason, but we had a good January. Expenses for January are lower by about 12.6%. A lot of that was just, and actually it's a negative, it looks like it's a negative number now. After last meeting, Mike had grabbed me and talked about some of the engineering costs, and I moved some of that engineering cost for the ops building, the new ops building garage. I basically capitalized this, that's why that went on. That's really the bulk of the decrease there for January. So when we look through January, we're at 11 months. Revenue's 4.4% higher. That's the rate increase, and there's a slight increase for the 11 months, just over 0.5% in consumption. Early look at February, we'll probably end up finishing the year a little bit above, a little higher. About 5 million gallons or so, Joe's estimating. So we'll probably finish a little bit higher for consumption for the year. Expenses through December are just under 3% higher, and it's pretty much the same culprits as the last couple months. The raise is given for the salaries and wages in the admin. And there was a couple of open positions last year. Professional fees are up. There's a lot of additional work with the resolving of the North Farm, and then some other engineering fees in addition to the new ops garage. And there's a slight decrease in the purchases for the year due to decreased consumption. When we look at the budget on page 6, overall revenue is 12.36% above budget. Expenses are just under budget, 7.73. The three biggest areas there are the administrative expenses, professional fees, and water purchase. Same explanations really as the last couple of months. For those, we get to page 7 through 9, the reports on dollars billed and gallons delivered. You can see we're 4.29% the dollars billed over last year, and just to take over a 0.5% increased consumption. And like I said, Joe's figuring we're going to come in probably right around that 70 million gallons for February. So we should finish the year with a little bit of a positive increase in consumption. Page 10 is a trustee fund report. Debt service ratio is down a little bit from December, 10.4. That's largely due to we actually paid off one of our bonds in January. So took some of the money to pay off one of our bonds. And the last page is a pension summary report. There's an increase for the month of just under $50,000. And for the year, it's up $217,000. Remember, the pension plan year goes July 1st through June, so the pension plan year is up $217,000, and the balance as of January is $4.1 million. Other than that, I think Steve and I have the appointment at the Finance Committee meeting. Finance Committee wanted us to make with US Bank and the other one? What's the other one I'm blanking? And I have the audit scheduled to begin about a week earlier than last year. I talked to them, and that's really it.
Any questions, okay? Okay. Board member town council reports. Well, I guess the town of Warren made an appointment, so there's a report right there. And I have heard that the town of Bristol has extended my stay with the Bristol County Water Authority.
Same with the town of Barrington with my appointment as well, extra 3 years.
Yeah,
It's always the,
I haven't received anything in writing yet, so I'm
That's
still.
the personnel committee.
Okay, moving on to quarterly write-offs. Just item 7.
No, item 8 is the first report.
Yeah.
For district regional.
There it is, yeah, okay, so, yeah, you get that. And you see what the net write-offs to revenue at 0.24%. Average write-off of about $223.02. Moving on, anybody have any questions about that?
What creates a write-off?
Joe's not here. People don't pay their bills.
Businesses go out of business as
Businesses
well?
go out of business, residents just, leave. Most of the time, Joe's able to, when it's usually a resident, if they move like Warren to Bristol, he transfers balance over to the new account, so if we get a lot of these recoveries, he usually places liens on just about everything he can. If a business closes, he'll put a lien on it. If somebody moves out and he doesn't know if they move within the system, he'll put a lien on it. So we usually get a lot of recoveries, and that's why you can see on the report, you'll see on the next report, you'll see he has a write-off amount, and then he'll take less recoveries. That's money he's received within that same period of time. So even this quarter, for that last quarter, he had a net write-off of just under $11,000. Like 2 weeks later, he got a recovery of like $6,000 on a business, on a resident balance. So, but he records the recovery in the time period that he has the write-off.
Thank you. When we do the liens, are we far down the totem pole? I mean, do we have any priority on the liens? Or is it worth the effort, or?
He got $6,000.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's worth the effort. It's like $25 or whatever, to put the lien on and just try to.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely worth the effort, just looking at the recoveries. I mean, when we get to the next time, we can talk about it a little bit more. You can see, we get a good amount of recoveries on that.
We don't hold lien sales, so.
No.
But do on the sewer side.
We're trying to get rid of property.
Right? Yeah.
Okay, the next item on the agenda, I'm required to read the motion, is the annual write-offs report and motion to approve for the period March 1, 2025 to 2/28/2026. I'm going to ask you to do that again because I haven't read the motion yet. Okay.
make a motion to be approved.
No, hasn't been made yet. I have to read the motion. If there's a specific motion, I have to read. The motion is, and then you can say you're making the motion, to acknowledge annual gross write-offs in the amount of $53,147.46, less recoveries of $10,057 $57.55, resulting in the net annual write-offs of $43,089.91.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
There are things they give me I have to read. Okay. Next item on the agenda is the purchase of a John Deere backhoe. Mr. Kutu.
Okay, so as we're talking about water main breaks, one, if not probably the most critical piece of equipment is the heavy equipment, is the backhoe. We have two John Deere backhoes now, a 2014 and a 2018, and we are looking to replace the 2014 with a new backhoe. We deal exclusively with the local John Deere dealer in North Swansea, just United Construction and Forestry, and they provide pricing through the Sourcewell Collaborative, which provides municipal and state pricing. So we are recommending a purchase of a John Deere 320 backhoe of United Construction and Forestry for the amount of $133,750. This includes a $30,000 trade-in value for the 2014 backhoe.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion of the proposed motion?
Not a Ford.
Okay. No. No, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to item 11. Audio-visual improvements to the BCWA boardroom.
Yes, if directors will recall, back in August, we presented a conceptual proposal for furniture and technology improvements for the boardroom. And at that meeting, the board preferred to invest funds in upgrading the technology over the furniture, which was named the boardroom tables, which we're still looking at, but we're not going to look at something as fancy as we were looking at previously. But tonight, we have been, mainly Mike and our IT director, Randy, have been meeting with vendors in our state FPA. They've come here and inspected the room and made recommendations and proposals to upgrade the, kind of how we tape the meetings, how the meetings are, how meetings can be presented. We would no longer rely on the projector. It would be a TV screen here, another TV screen either on the side wall or the back wall. We'd have a mounted camera higher up that would kind of capture everybody in the room. We'd have one mic. So and even if we had someone talking on a remotely, we can have a conversation back and forth, and they can kind of see us and we can see them, kind of thing. So with those improvements, the equipment installation, we're recommending a contract award to Minuteman. We're also familiar with Minuteman as they have provided security services for us in the past. And their proposal cost is $31,622.57. We'd also like to include a 20% contingency for a total approved budget not to exceed $37,500.
Motion to be accepted.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Approved. The next item on the agenda is executive session. For the purposes of the executive Directors' Performance Review and Annual Goals pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 4246-5A1.
So moved.
Yes, no, for the record,
Oh. So,
yeah, just say-
do you want to have the discussion in open session, or do you want to do executive session?
Executive session's fine, thank you.
For the record, the person to be discussed, Stephen Kutu, our executive director, has been advised of his right to have the discussion take place in open session and has declined. So we're looking for a motion to go into executive
So
session.
moved. Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Going into executive session.
Motion to seal the executive session minutes.
Second.
Yeah. You gonna vote?
There'll be a second.
We need a vote.
And just waiting for the chairman.
Second. I think we have our second.
We already have a second, we're just waiting for the chairman.
That doesn't hurt. Can't hurt.
Reseal the, we're trying to seal the minutes.
Okay. Motion to seal the minutes.
No, we call Sal, we just need a vote.
We just need the vote.
All in favor?
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. It's approved. All right.
That's all. You put it.
Okay, I'm looking for a motion on the approval of the executive director's salary. If you could state what the motion is.
I make a motion that we accept the percentage from the personnel committee
4%.
recommendation of 4% to the director.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I think we have
Thank you.
confirmation of that. In fact, I think I might have counted 16 votes. Everybody did that so enthusiastically. Okay, the next vote is on the board vote on the executive director's annual goals. Somebody want to try to state this?
Did you do the salary? Did you do the salary?
Yes.
Voted? Yeah. Checked out.
Mr. Chairman, with regard to the goals, I believe we need to write something down and give it to the director for what we discussed.
I need to, say that again, I'm sorry.
I believe the board needs to give the executive director what we discussed as far as the goals.
You want me-
What your chart does,
Okay.
you need to, I would say you need to give him that chart
I will give him this chart.
prioritized by what we agreed to in the session.
But you need to vote on it, on what those are, then you would give it to it.
Items, what is it, 1 through 4?
Okay, but what, okay, yeah, we make a motion, it's seconded, and then there'll be a discussion, and we'll include the director in the discussion.
Okay. I make a motion that we approve.
As recommended by the Personnel Committee.
Yes. The goals that are listed on that chart
Right.
and presented to the executive director
Okay,
as his goals for 2026.
and to be exact, items 1, 2, 3 are the primary, and the 4 is the secondary.
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks.
Lauren, you can just incorporate that into the minutes. 'Cause-
The chart.
yeah,
Yeah. Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Okay, any discussion? Yes. It's just the four.
Let's say all in favor.
Well, I'm not, any discussion? Any discussion?
I don't have any discussion, no. Just
Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Don't hear any opposed, it's settled. Okay, great. Now, the next item on the agenda is the next scheduled meeting is March 26, 2026. And now I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved. I'd rather stay here for a while.
Second.
All those in favor?
See what else Juan can come.